Welcome back to the channel. Now in this tutorial I want to go ahead and create an image upload and preview component. So we're going to pretty much just add this to our existing Vuetify Components repository. So this will be one of our main components as well. The reason why I wanted to create this tutorial is because I was technically adding this feature to another project I was working on, and I had some amount of challenge getting it done, and that is because I pretty much could not find a tutorial or article that goes over it in the way that I actually wanted it to be. Because what I'm using is Vuetify, or the project is using Vuetify, and you can see that Vuetify has this v file input component, which I believe is actually a wrapper over the HTML input element. And none of the articles or the tutorials that I found actually was truly using the v file input component. Most of them would pretty much just use the HTML standard HTML input element, and then they just preview it in an image, which I found kind of redundant in some sense because we already have the file input component. So why would we need to use a different the normal HTML one when we're working with Vidify? So I decided to just go ahead and do it on my own. So what assisted me in for the most part is actually this here for the Nox Cloudinary upload. It basically did everything that I wanted it to do. Uh, getting the file is the easy part, but I actually wasn't sure about rendering back the data or reading the data off the file so we can preview it back to the user. So this is what this thing assisted me in accomplishing. So I will leave the link in the description for you guys to run through all of this. So I already have this here open, and I also have it running here, so you can see our previous components already. So let me go ahead now and start to add the component, and hopefully this isn't too small. Let me just increase the size just a bit. And first thing, we're gonna add a component, so we're gonna call this image uh, new keyboard image upload preview, because that's what our component will be doing. And then this is going to be HTML right there. And what we want to do here is to pretty much just create a paragraph here and say, I'm just gonna give it just a quick name or whatever. So image preview, or just a little line of text, because what I want to do here is just to add it over into our app so we can see it over here previewing as we code. And the next thing I want to add here is just a script, and I am using just a normal JavaScript. And to make this simpler for our input, what I'm going to do is just to add the name of it, which is going to be image upload preview. I'm going to show you how the Vuetify extension really helps us in this way here. So right about going into the app here, because we want to have it inside of the app. And actually we may need to just copy this here and just say image upload preview. And I'm going to copy this because we can do that and paste it there. And it's going to be one of the main components for us. So I'm going to add it right here. Let's copy and duplicate that. Paste it there. And the slug will be the same name, all lowercase, separated by dashes. So this will be our main component here. And I also need to register it in our list of components. So I'm going to put that there, save that, give this a quick format as well, and there we go. So now this should be our components. You can see it says image upload preview. So that's our component right there, which is pretty awesome. So the basic things that we need now for our component, we're going to add those in. Usually I had intended on doing a bit more formatting to this thing, but let's just go ahead and dive right into it. So I'm gonna add it to a card because I think that would make it look a lot more better. So let's add a card here, and I want some amount of margin and stuff around this. So I'm gonna add the v card text because it usually gives me that ability. So let's go ahead now and add the first thing, which is the v image, and this is where we're actually going to be previewing the image whenever it is done. So for the time being, I'm actually just going to put a source. So we could pretty much just go ahead and do something like this and that's so wrong. Let's get rid of that. This should be right up here. So this is where the source should be, and I'm just gonna go ahead and do logo.png right there for the time being. And the next thing that we want to do here is to actually have the v file input. So this is where the magic will occur here. So before we continue on here, we need to actually set up the functions and the properties that will be necessary for us to actually get this here done. So here in the script, I'm going to add a data property, and the first thing that we want is actually the image. So this is where we're actually going to store the image, and actually we also want to have an image preview, so that's what we're adding here as well. The next thing that we want is methods, and I'm going to add an async method, and this is this method that we have right here, and you can see that it's asynchronous. So this is what we're actually going to be adding right now. I called mine select image because image is what we're selecting, and that's all that we need. The thing about Vuetify now is that it actually manipulates the data already. Usually with the normal file input, we'll have to do all of this. We would get the target, get the files, and then get the one at index 0. But we don't have to do this with the actual input v input element because it actually does all of that manipulation already. But you can see here what they're using is the normal input field, so that is why they have to do this. But for this one, it's not, for the v file input, it's not necessary. I believe maybe if you add this type of file, you may have to do this, but for this instance, we're not doing that. So let's go ahead and continue here. So what we're taking is, I believe that's the event. And pretty much what I'm going to do is just create a constant called file, and then we're going to set that equal to the event that is passed, and pretty much what we're getting is the file itself right there. So we're going to check now if it actually exists. So if the file exists, then pretty much we're going to return, and we're going to stop the function there. Else, what we're going to do is we're going to create a function that's called real data or read data, pass in an argument there, and then we create a new promise or map it to a new promise here with a resolve, and here is where our body will be, our function body. So we have a reader and new constant reader, and we create a new file reader, which should be familiar for persons who would have done the normal file input. Here we're going to use the reader, and we're going to do the unload here. And this is going to be equal to an anonymous function as far as I can see here with the resolve. And then we're going to read the result. Or, well, actually, it should say reader dot result. result, and here now we can just do it as a data URL. So read as data URL, and then we pass the argument. So that is pretty much it as it relates to manipulating the file to break it down. So now we can create a constant data. This will store the blob, I guess, of the file, and then it's an async function, so we're gonna have to await, and then we're going to call the function here, and we're gonna pass file. So this file here, which is going to break it down and give us back the data that we need here. And right here, we're just going to go ahead and pass it to image preview, and then we're going to set that to data right here. So this is the blob that we're going to be passing back as the image preview right here, and we're going to get that. So to actually use this thing now, what we want to do is to actually have it up here. So the first thing that we want to do is to say vmodel, and vmodel here is just going to take the image. So this is that where we're storing the image and the preview will be different. So the vmodel will take the image, so we're taking the actual file itself and we're breaking down the file to create the image preview. So that's pretty much what we're doing in this instance here. Here I also pretty much, well, given the fact that we're using only images, I'm just going to go ahead and add that we're using image, just PNG. So with the file extension PNG, and here I think we can do JPG as well, and also this final one BMP, and that should be that. I'm actually going to break this into format it so that it goes on different lines and not be so long. Also want to add a placeholder here, and I'm just going to say pick an image just to make that look a little better. I also want to prepend an icon on here, which is going to be the MD camera icon, and here is where we're actually going to be using this thing here. So we want to do an onChange, and onChange we're going to be selecting, we're going to be calling this method here. And the thing about this is that you don't want to add the brackets here to show that. You want to actually just leave it as is, or else it will throw an error. Haven't really figured out exactly why that occurs, but in time I will. One other thing that I want to also add to this is I want to be able to clear the image preview if that is required. So let's go ahead and add the image, the ability to clear the image. So we're gonna have it as an async function as well, which is not actually necessary because we won't really use it that much. But just for the sake of consistency, I'm just gonna add that. It's a very simple function. All it's going to do is just going to do a this dot image preview, and then we're going to set it back to an empty string right here. And what we want to do here is have the ability to actually clear the file or the blob that is in there. So here I'll go ahead and do a add click, and we're clicking a specific icon. So the icon that we're clicking is a clear, or we're clicking this clear function, or whenever we click this icon, you'll usually see this on the file inputs. So we'll be able to do that, and then we're just gonna call the clear image preview, and I'm actually gonna call this as a normal function. Final thing I'll add here is just a label to this, and our label will be image. And that is pretty much it as it relates to the file input, and we could go ahead and look at it how it is, and it should be awesome. So one other thing that I want, now we just need to pretty much add our file to show, to actually preview this thing here. So what we'll do here is I want to add a source. The source will be how we're going to be previewing it, obviously. So we're gonna do a condition. That's what I should be saying. So we're gonna do a condition. So we're gonna say, well, if the image is available, so we're doing a ternary condition. If the image is available, then what we're going to do is to show the image preview. Else, we're going to show something else. So for this instance, Vuetify usually has some images. Where are they? So images, and they have these images here. So what I'm going to do is to pretty much just copy this URL right here. I believe this is this thing here, so we can add that. So in the event that there's no image, we're just going to go ahead and do that. So if there's no preview, then we're going to go ahead and do that. And actually, this isn't the one that we want. We want the first one, the last one, because this is actually the source here. Let's add this here. And I also want to add a lazy image to it as well. So let's go ahead and our lazy source. So let's add that to it. Let's format this a bit and put it right here. I actually want to also add a maximum height to this. I'm gonna go for 150. I think that should be perfect. So that's pretty much all that we need. So we have the function, the method here to select the image and manipulate it and then return the data first to preview it, and we can also clear it. So we also have the fields to capture the data that we need, the preview and the image itself, and additionally we have where we're getting it, types that we want, the placeholders and icons, and what would happen on change, and we're able to also clear the data. Here we can preview the file that is uploaded. If it's not there, then we're pretty much gonna just put a default image. We have lazy loading, and we also have the maximum height as well. So let's go ahead and save this, and we have an arrow here, file reader. This is what that should be. I think that should auto save, is it? No, it's not. So let's save that. All right, there we go. And now we can go back here and we are seeing our file input. And I may need to just add a height, let's say of 50, well, let's say 30 pH. That's not large enough. Let's go for 50. Oh, for the card. And the image, we need to also change the height of that as well. And let's do that and see what we'll get. Too large, obviously. Let's go for 30 here. And there we go. So this should be okay. Now let's see if everything that we're doing actually works the way that we intended for it to do. So let's go ahead now and find an image. So we have this image here, and we are going to open it, and as you can see there, it uploads it and then it previews it. So when we click on clear now, you can see that it goes back to the default. And you can, and I actually want to go ahead and also show you what's happening under the hood here. So in the Vuetify components here, so on the components, so if we're looking at the item, we're looking for a specific one which I cannot find. Let's go for vcard and image upload preview. So now this is what happens. Let's look at what happens. So when you select the image, you'll see what that the file, well, this should be showing the file, but it's not. For some reason, it's not showing it. this should actually be showing the file itself in here that is selected, and then the blob of it, which I'm not seeing. Oh, here we go. So it was in the wrong place. So what you can see here is that it's showing us the file itself that is being that we're getting from the V input here. So this V model is it that's being going on here. So we select that, and then unchanged is also giving us the blob of the image, and this is what we're previewing. So pretty much this is what we're previewing. So this is what happens here when we do that preview, and then when we click on clear, it sets it to null, and then sets that back to an empty string. So that is pretty much it, and this is an awesome thing. You can manipulate this even more to your liking, to do whatever you like for it to do, because it's pretty awesome. So I'll upload this to the Git repository, and I'll also add the text version, which you guys can find over here at edufedorae.com. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.